Hey guys, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And today we're looking at the first ever sedan that I'm going to review for you, the new Lexus ES 350. It's actually been with the company for a while, but this is a refreshed version for 2016. I find that a wagon or an SUV could give you a lot more in terms of cargo capacity, but this mid-sized sedan actually gives you a lot of trunk space. We're going to see how it stacks up with our standardized trunk test coming up here. Typically, I'd say that Lexus does skew a little bit older, more gray-haired people behind the wheel of a vehicle like this for sure, but the company is trying really hard to appeal to a bit of a younger demographic as well. Think of the IS sports sedan. That has a lot of young people chomping at the bit to get behind the wheel of it. And then of course its RX and NX SUVs have more aggressive and sporty lines. Now, to be honest with you, this ES is more focused toward a bit of an older demographic, even still, 50s, 60s, according to Lexus, that's the kind of range they're looking for. Long-time Lexus owners. But it does have a bit more of an aggressive look for 2016. That spindle grille is changed for this year. It's really fun to drive as well. I've had a lot of fun in it this week. We're going to get to all of the performance numbers, our standardized tests, all the rest, and see if the ES 350 really could work for family life coming up.
I always see the size of these bags.
A lot of times I wonder what the letters stand for in the name of a car. What is ES? It stands for Elegant Sedan, and certainly that's what we're in here today. This is based on the same platform as the Toyota Avalon. That's the largest sedan in the Toyota line, but this is a much more luxurious version of that vehicle. You can get into an Avalon for about $38,000, but you get into an ES for just over $41,000, giving you standard equipment like automatic climate control, keyless entry, sunroof, and a pretty decent infotainment system as well. But my biggest beef with this car is how you use that infotainment system. It's not a touch screen. It's this rather clunky and awkward interface. It's kind of like using a mouse down here in this central console area, and a little bit clumsy to use. I'd just way rather have a touch screen in this vehicle. You can climb out of the base model, which is again about $41,000, and get into the highest level trim of the ES for about $52,000, just a little bit more than that, and it gives you a lot in terms of features. You get faux leather in the base model, you get premium leather in that higher end executive trim. You also get a full panoramic sunroof and a really impressive raft of safety features. That's one of the things that's really changed for 2016 in this car. It gives you things like collision mitigation braking, so that if you are coming up to a vehicle really quickly and the car senses that you're not reacting quickly enough, that will actually brake for you. Adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning system, so if you're drifting it'll actually give you an audible warning, things like that. And it's those features that have given this car a top safety pick plus rating from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Another thing that's really impressed me about this car is its fuel efficiency. For a large sedan like this with a 3.5 liter V6 engine on board, I've averaged just under 9 liters per 100 kilometers this week, and I've driven about 500 kilometers now in a mix of highway and city driving. I've also kind of given it the beans a little bit here and there, still managing to get some really good fuel economy numbers. Lexus is saying that on the highway you should expect to get around 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers on strictly, highway flat driving. That's pretty impressive. If you want to really up the ante, you can get a hybrid option in this car as well. It's the ES 300H. Your fuel economy numbers are going to be even better, but obviously you're going to be paying a little bit more for that advantage. But here was the big surprise for me, guys. I knew that this car would be smooth and refined and comfortable. It's really quiet in here, even with winter tires on. Lexus has gone to an extra level with this new refresh version, made it even quieter in the ES 350. But I also thought that it might be a little bit sluggish and maybe roly-poly through the corners, but it's not. it's really fun to drive, especially when you pop it into sport mode, put the pedal to the metal, pass someone on the highway, or go through some windy country roads, and all of a sudden this car is a riot. So much so, actually, that I was kind of disappointed. By the end of the week, I wanted to have a set of paddle shifters here on the steering wheel, but you can't get those even as an option on the ES350. Strangely enough, the Avalon, the Toyota equivalent of this car, comes standard with paddle shifters, and given the sportiness of this rather large Lexus sedan, I kind of wish that I had a set of paddle shifters. Definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing. I did not see that coming with this car. Looking at the general layout now of the interior, I find it really high-end. The materials are soft touch. You can tell that it's a well-built vehicle, with the exception of some hard plastics down here by the bottom of the door panels. They seem strangely out of place. But you can tell this car definitely is targeted toward a slightly older demographic. You've got this old-school analog clock right here in the center of the dash. The seats are quilted. And that brings me to something that I don't love about this car, and that's the seat comfort here in the front two seats. They're rather flat bottomed, and for longer touring road trips, I just don't think that they would stack up compared to the mid-sized luxury European counterparts. Even the direct competitors for this vehicle, the Acura RLX, the Buick LaCrosse, the Cadillac XTS, I think they've dialed in their seat comfort a little bit more, and that's something that falls short here on the ES350. And then, of course, there's this clunky interface for the infotainment system. We've already talked about it. Other reviewers have brought it up as well. It's a bit of a blind spot for Lexus. But in general, the layout in this car is intuitive, the driver position is comfortable, and you don't feel like you're sitting in a $40,000 car. It feels more premium than that, and that's something that's really important with a luxury sedan. It should feel like a special place. And I get that here with this car for quite a bit less money than you would pay for its European equivalent. Let's take a look at the back seat now, because this is a place that I could really get some work done. We've got reading lights, a couple of cup holders, the seats are really comfortable. I could be on a long road trip in this car quite comfortably, even as a tall guy who has set the driver's seat up in front of me for a tall person as well. And I don't really want to leave the back seat, but I want to show you the trunk, so I'm going to have to. The trunk, you know how I feel about sedans. I would rather have a wagon, but the trunk in this car is pretty good. The standard amount of gear here, the fold-up stroller, the diaper bag, the backpack, the couple bags of groceries, a soccer ball, all fit without issue. I could even fit one of our stress test items, the tricycle here, with some room to spare. But one issue I have with sedans is that it's difficult to get to the far depths of the trunk. Something to note is that if you go for the hybrid option in this car, you're going to have less trunk space, because some of that hybrid technology is actually underneath the trunk, and so because of that, the floor has been raised just a little bit. You're not going to have quite as much room, and you're also not going to have this pass-through option. So if you have a pair of skis, a couple 2x4s, you can run them through the trunk into the back seat. That's not an option in the hybrid at all. Let's look at the back seat now, because I've put our rear-facing child seat in place here, and those can often spell trouble in smaller sedans for legroom up front, but you can see here it's a total non-issue. I've got over 14 inches of legroom that I have at play here, and it means that for me, as a tall guy, no problem at all. Great for parents, grandparents, whomever is buying a car like this. But my big beef with the seats on this car, they're not quite as comfortable as I'd like, but they're also covered in all these perforations. I've talked about these before on the show. I rub some yogurt in these things, and I try and get it out, and that yogurt just clogs up all those tiny, tiny holes, and I'm probably going to be cleaning these for the next half hour here. I'm bleeding for you guys, but I just want to show you as a demonstration how challenging these seats can be. So there you have it, a fantastic new refresh from Lexus in the new ES. I think that it checks all the boxes that I'd look for with a mid-size luxury sedan. It's smooth, it's refined, it's quiet, yet it's far sportier than I expected it to be. My one beef, I just wish that it would come in a wagon. Mercedes has turned its E-Class sedan into a wagon. BMW has a wagon, so does Volvo, a number of different wagons, and then of course Volkswagen as well. well. They're just as efficient, they're just as sporty, but they give you that bit of utilitarian boost, and I like that. Let me know what you think. Would you get a car like this as a wagon? You can leave a comment below. You can always find me on Twitter as well, at Family Wheels. Next week on the program, we're looking at a vehicle that is definitely targeted toward a bit of a younger audience, the new Scion IM. See if that little hatchback can work for family life. Until then, make sure to check out the website, familywheels.ca, and we'll see you in about 7 days.